Because what would happen in the past is that I would start off in my fast by showing it, and then I would start to get more in my tea energy and be like, I don't want to speak about this. So I thought like differently this time. I was like, okay, I'll be in my tea energy for the beginning, and then I'll get into my S energy, and now I'll speak about it. And now I'll show everyone like what's up and like what I'm experiencing and stuff, and like the benefits and everything. And then that's where everyone like was speaking about it a lot too. And that's why like the views were going up so hard, because people were commenting, just like going hard, talking about how the medical industry like kills people basically. Literally. And now all those comments are gone, and it really sucks. It's such a shame. All the S energy sucks, such shame, sad. So what are you gonna do? Keep creating. B2 Trismegistus on TikTok and change the way that I communicate. Because again, yeah, whatever. Snakes. So it's all about knowing that spirits say and do what they want in a body, all based on how they feel, all based on a vibration, all based on emotional resonance. So when you know that you as a space are creating your body from your soul, then boom, you're able to ride your own vibe. It's lit. That's literally you beating your heart right now. No big deal, actually, right? You always actually are riding your own vibe. That's the only way your body could possibly matter. See how it's now scientific? Like all the spiritual stuff, I make it boom, scientific. S. Welcome to the S episode. Synchronicity, originally spelled with an S until Chase Calloway wanted you to see why. Snakes are awesome. Snakes are all of us. Snakes represent our desire to ride a wave and speak our bodies into existence. Snakes then represent how when we are spirits in a body and we believe we are the body, we are of sin. We are of a low vibration. We are now fearful. We are now scared. Why? Because the body can only exist for a certain amount of time. And this is where snakes are scary, because generally, especially in now like, you know, white supremacist society that wants us to hate nature and get us hooked on technology, they teach us to be scared of animals. So we're taught that snakes overwhelmingly are poisonous, and you should be fearful of them because they'll bite you, hurt you, kill you, and all that. And then that's where humans generally are taught and conditioned to be scared of snakes, because snakes remind us that we are only in these bodies for a certain amount of time. We are only riding this wave for a certain amount of time. So that's the point of the S. That's the point of the snake. Literally being the vibration, and the T being the frequency. What do you frequently see when you look out your windows? Trees. Yeah, whack. They took the symmetry TikTok. That, man, that's a shame. Because it literally had the 5G tree videos and everything. So as far as actually like ST ability in trees, like they literally are just tearing down trees and replacing them with 5G trees and 5G towers. And instead of actual plants that other spirits built that they don't own, giving us air, they would rather replace them with metal towers to build a grid that will allow them to make money off of our minds. And as a byproduct, these towers cause climate change and are poisoning the environment. Like this, like that's how deep all this goes. As far as symmetry being the tree. So they uprooted the symmetry on TikTok just to, I mean, it just gets so deep. That's such a shame. But those 5G videos are gone too. So I'm gonna keep trying to get it back. It's not even a big deal for real. Because it's either actually gone or life moves on, because as a spirit, literally there's nothing to do but keep building and be me, because that's what nature literally does. So S and T, there's a wisdom there. Next episode, we will get into T. Again, snakes are negative when they slither too far out of their space, too far into other spaces, other universes, other realms and realities, and they get themselves killed. And actually, wow, that really brings me back to the story. So I will wrap up this episode with this story for you because I love you. And it was wild because it also, like, the emotion came up. So it's definitely poignant because the details, and actually, yeah, let me get actually detailed in this story because this man is very important and he did not come into my life for no reason at all. So this is essential, actually. This is a perfect way to end this podcast. Let me speak about this man. Because this was a whole little legacy, odyssey in my time here in LA. To learn about actually the medical industry and straight up how deep everything that they do gets. Like everything that they do, it's insane. And spirits literally brought me in wild vibrational resonance to communicate with this man just long enough to slither in and slither out. It's remarkable. It was truly Spidey sense. And the fact that spiders and snakes and it's Spidey sense and it's all S energy is all about sensing a vibration. It's all about sensing a wave and knowing what you're riding. Like literally, this is how deep it goes. This is why again, Spider-Man is weaponized Hermes energy. Black Panther, weaponized Thoth energy, which is their whack version of Tahuti anyway. So, yeah, this man is very important because when I came out here to LA, I was developing Decolonize Your Face, right? From all this sitting in school. So many S's. All this sitting in school, messing up my spine and getting me misaligned and like creating issues inside of my body. So like I wanted to keep that separate. Like that's so separate from the spirituality, but now it only makes sense with the spirituality as I've just can keep expounding upon and need to perhaps reel it back in. Because comedy. Too much nature. Because just as Chase, like before I got so ingrained in this and ingrained in my own space and using fasting to decolonize everything that I've been through here and like all the ideas of this realm. It was through me being here as Chase, working on Decolonize Your Face mainly, and a fasting course mainly, and then getting into the Emerald Tablets and starting to make those videos as I was having my Thoth journey, and then started getting into my Hermes journey and started getting into my then other deeper journeys. This is not about my other bodies because it's been like a odyssey of my mind as Chase now dipping its awareness into different bodies of myself so that I can learn about my overall vibration as a spirit, because I've been living this past 24 years like everyone else, trapped in a wave of having to believe that I am what a white supremacist slave person wants me to believe, that I'm a body, that I'm flesh, that I'm light. Now it's about to be that I'm consciousness or something, but in general that I am the light, or that I am just flesh or something. And I was forced to make that work because I'm forced to sit in school and regurgitate that all day every day. So that's the wave. Like that's a snake. If I went too far out of my space in school, I would get killed, literally. Like that's how they have it all set up. It's wild. So this lesson in this story is like literally just spirits, and it's amazing. Like spirits has started with whatever spirituality, spirits, same. But I'm just now getting hyper conscious of the S's. They were showing me the importance of not slithering too far out of one space, and yet the importance of actually doing that though, because as a snake you can gather information, like the whole, but then that's where you can gather way more information actually flying. Like when you like that's actually when you connect with yourself, you can get way more. But at the same time, like no, like snakes are on the ground, birds are in the air. When you're flying, you're a bird, you're in the air. But as a snake, it's important to do groundwork. So I came to LA and I did some groundwork. I did like spiritual groundwork. And my spiritual groundwork was, as Chase, getting into really using DMT to separate from my body and do that in a way that allowed me to communicate with my dog, travel to other spaces, and I was already doing that, like realizing and developing these possibilities with fasting, because again, when your body is not eating food, you're naturally releasing more DMT. Like DMT is a compound created by all living things. It's about connecting your body to your spirit, so you, as a spirit creating the mind, don't actually get lost in the body. So when I was using DMT to separate from my body, there was one specific flight when I laid back and closed my eyes and everything was black. And then there was like a green light. Everything opened up. It was like green emerald. And then it just flew. And I flew out. So that's like my mind leaving the body. Boom, the body of like blackness, closing the eyes. Now I'm seeing all these lights. And I was basically flying inside of a spaceship, which is like an atmosphere, minds, of all these other spirits. So we're all communicating. And it's basically a conglomerate. It's not an actual organization. I mean, we're organizing, but it's not a corporation. There we go. No one's necessarily making money, but we are communicating. And like we are building a structure naturally from communicating, but like the focus of communicating and building the structure is not to make money. So the focus of this communication, actually, they like immediately, we were talking about children. So this whole flight, this whole trip, literally, there's no better word than trip. That's why life is psychedelic. I'm psychedelic symmetry. Life is one trip. So this trip out of my body back closer to my soul, based on using my mind to travel into the astral realm. This trip is what allowed me to communicate with all these other spirits. They're like gold and green and like they're smiling. There's so many different just families. Like there are families from all across the universe. Like they all had totally different bodies. I'm not even gonna get into trying to explain them now, because they're just like they all like get to look like how they want to look. That's the point. Down here, we look more like forms that we are choosing to be more relatable versus being more individual. So their forms are way more individual because they're literally just using light to articulate a more authentic representation of their imagination than I can as Chase in a body. Boom. So talking with them, it was all about the importance of children. All about the importance of protecting kids. All about the importance of making sure that children are actually safe and safe to communicate freely, because spirits that pop into children, like pop into the body of a child, like when the spirit is born, the point is a spirit is unaware, as in like you're aware, but you are aware to a certain degree, which is like much closer to unawareness than, I mean, of course, a child, let alone a teenager, let alone an adult, right? So it is about going from like this unconscious to subconscious and then conscious level. And now you can use your consciousness to reflect on your subconscious, which is your past. And now you can learn way more about your unconscious, where you're creating your consciousness from and who you are right now. So when I'm flying in like this whole spaceship with all these spirits communicating about children, the importance of protecting them, all that, it was becoming apparent that my trip here in LA it was all about literally children and the medical industry. and my awakening as Hermes. And I never put words to this until now, so that's, hey, I'm glad I'm doing this podcast. Way to go, Chase. And way to go, you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Because this is lit. Everyone's making this possible, of course. We've all been making this possible through past lifetimes and everything. So it was just like very awesome. Like, it was just very wild to go through all that. And now it's really cool to be able to sit here with you and reflect upon it. And I'm very glad that I am taking the time to do this, because I said that this one was going to be shorter to myself, and it looks like it's not. Whatever. It's important, this episode, because the spirits were speaking to me about the importance of children and protecting basically their health. So we're literally in a time where our government wants to force heavy metals into the blood of kids, and the FDA has already been allowing insane amounts of heavy metals into baby food, like for a long time, for over a century, if not longer. Like, basically, literally since the Industrial Revolution. Since the Industrial Revolution, there have been like toxic amounts of heavy metals in our foods in general, especially our baby food. So these heavy metals inside of our foods are literally like cancerous. They degrade our cells. They impede our ability to communicate, because we alchemically know that metal separates earth from water. So, boom. The whole point then of putting these heavy metals in our food is to actually separate our water from our bodies, to separate our blood from our cells, so that they can't communicate as well. Now we can't actually get the air going that allows us to move. And then this is how the medical industry comes in with Chase Calloway's caduceus to cause more problems while appearing like they're about to heal you for what they've already created by forcing you to live this sort of lifestyle. So after this trip, basically, where, long story short, it's just them, all of us, like so many races of spirits, like it's like many races, many families, we're all coming together, and it's like they're basically working, I'm sure, like with me, because they're not in a body. So it's like me being in a body, I'm the individual spirit that chooses to come down here in this way. All these other spirits are communicating in different ways, and we're all like communicating and like doing our thing, but I'm the one who is down here doing this, and it's up to me to relay messages. That's why I'm Hermes. So of course it's about the importance of children, and me really sharing the fact that we're all children. That's where then I start to develop the number thing here in LA. I've developed basically everything here, actually. Snap. LA's been awesome. I've developed almost all of my spirituality here, actually. Like everything that I've logically built up. Like I've had my awakening before, and then right after my awakening came to California and started having it here. Yeah, Callaway in California. Now I'm in Chatsworth. So here I am making my Chatsworth something, and I'm riding a wave. Literally, I'm here riding the wave with all of you. This is the importance of astrology. Literally, like the actual importance of astrology, and being aware of the waters that you're in right now, and being aware of the vibration and like the moon and all that, because the whole point is that we as spirits, to make it logical, because I know like I as a Virgo don't really care about astrology, but when I like fly mentally at everything and travel and stuff, like I see then how it's very important from a logical space. So to make it logical for my logical people, when you as a spirit are experiencing yourself as a body inside of a simulation, everything is vibrating, meaning that everything is connected by water. So the movement of other bodies in the sky are actually important. Just like if you think about you being in a pool and there's a movement of other bodies in a pool. So if there's a really big person in a pool, let's say this person is like 700 pounds and you're 500 pounds, it might be important. I said 500. Hilarious. This other person is 700 pounds. Let's say you're 55 pounds. You're a child. All right, you're a child or a teenager. I don't know how much do children weigh. You're a child, 55 pounds, somewhere in there. I don't know, toddler turning into child, 55 pounds. You're 55 pounds. You're in a pool with someone who is 700 pounds. You might want to be aware of how this person is moving. Otherwise, if they make a movement that moves the current or the wave of the waters you're in too big of a way, you might get washed under it and drown in your own emotions. And this is where astrology is essential to actually be aware of, so you can know how to ride the wave that you're in consciously and become more intelligent, get smarter. The symmetry TikTok very well also got banned because it's like Scorpio season, and it's also just part of a bigger wave of whatever. Big 8 energy, as we've already talked about. So after that trip, I was working on all these things here, just developing all of this. And literally the place I'm hanging out at, hilarious, Starbucks. Goddamn. So there's this Starbucks near where I was staying, and when I would go to Starbucks, you know, it'd be whatever, like I'm like normally just like going there for some coffee or whatever with my friend. It's lit. Shout out Starbucks ? Like Starbucks is fine, I guess. She likes it and she would offer it, and I would not deny it because my mom also likes it, and I like it because, hey, we're all relating by liking kind of the same things. Like, I'm not trying to be infinitely unrelatable by just never eating with people. Like, I've already gone through enough of that turmoil with fasting and being alone in the individuality, so it's whatever. It was this time where I did not go with her, and instead I went alone, which meant that I was going not for coffee, but to sit down and upload something, because the Wi-Fi at my place would just sometimes mess up and I wouldn't have time to deal with that. Because it's like, why are you paying for Wi-Fi that's messing up? Alright, well, let me hop down to the Starbucks instead. So it was in my trip to go use the Wi-Fi at Starbucks, as my Wi-Fi is messing up, that I meet whatever. I'm like wondering if this is present moment. I'm like, let me kind of get into the present moment. No, whatever. I met this guy. So when I went down to Starbucks, there's this dude, and let me think how this went real quick. Yeah, so in this trip, when I go down to Starbucks, I'm sitting at the table, and actually, my bad, this did not happen the first time at all. I was getting into, I had to get into a routine, like, for a little bit. Now the Wi-Fi works and it's lit. But for some reason, like, the Wi-Fi was just, like, keep cutting out. So I had to get into a routine of going down to Starbucks and sitting at the table and, like, uploading what I wanted to upload, and then going back to work, and then, like, keep working and, like, developing things, recording, like, creating all this stuff, all the courses and everything, and then go and, like, upload, like, TikToks that are now gone. Sad. And then, like, work and write. A lot of writing, because of, like, everything that I'm making, I'm, like, writing. And I have an eyelash in my mouth. That's the problem with having too many eyelashes. They get everywhere. That's hilarious. All this writing, comedy, eyelash in the mouth. I can write with this like a quill. Make a wish, Chase. No wishes. Be grateful, Chase. Don't make a wish. Wishes mean you're unfulfilled. We're not doing that shit here. So, it was one of these times where I'm sitting and writing that there's this guy. And this guy, he's sort of like built kind of like a biker dude. Sort of like a Sons of Anarchy type of dude, but more clean cut than that. But then, like, he has like scars and stuff like on his face, and his like skin looks really messed up. And he looks friendly in general though, but his like skin, his body's like super messed up. So he's like looking at me, and then I see him looking at me, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever, like, you know, meh, like everyone looks at everyone. He ended up commenting on my shoes, and I'm wearing the red shoes that you can see these shoes featured in the Sim of My Trees music video. Because I'm wearing these red shoes that basically remind him of Spider-Man. So already right there, it was like a synchronistic little grab that he pointed out, like, oh, nice shoes, you're like Spider-Man. And I was like, oh snap, and something in me told me to show him my Spider-Man costumes. So I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, check this out, I made this. And I'm like kind of rushing through this story. That's hilarious. I could get so much deeper into it and make it way more interesting, but we'll save that for a later time, because the point of this story is not about our fun little banter. That banter is not important. This is actually about the medical industry. And my realizations here about the medical industry that I could only truly really learn through him, and then like build up even stronger based on what I already knew, because everything he said was already building upon what I knew, of course. So it was like an amazing exchange of information. This is the importance of snakes. So that's where I'm also trying to wrap this up in a snake type way, like snakes wrap, even though I'm just going longer as I explain how I'm trying to go shorter. Which is hilarious, because I guess that's the point of the more you connect with yourself, you're literally just getting more T, more L, more aligned with the long or T, and it's just that light versus the short or the S, which is what life is. Life is short, but your soul is forever. That's why your soul would be more like a line than your body, because your soul is closer to the frequency, which is your actual line. Yeah, I'll find a right balance, of course, between the details, because the point is my interaction with this man. This man, we're gonna call him Blaine. Yeah, Blaine is going to be his name for this story. I had to think about that. So this man Blaine, it was very synchronistic. It was right after this trip of talking with all the spirits about like the importance of children, and like being like super excited about that trip out of my body and communicating with all those spirits and having such a great time and seeing the importance of like how we've been building structures for children, because we're all children. And they are just reframing my mind. They were reframing my mind to view communication, I suppose, in that way. Communicate for children. Which is now what I'm like working on. That's where it was very synchronistic then that this guy pointed out that my red shoes remind him of Spider-Man. And then I felt like I should walk over and show him my costume. And then when I did, he asked me my name. And I told him my name is Chase. And he immediately was like, oh, Chase, that's a powerful name in Kabbalah. And of course that piqued my interest, because Kabbalah is Egyptian mysticism stuff. And I mean, it's the Jews' version of Egyptian mysticism, but the fact that we're speaking English means that everything is actually the Jews' version, or else it was not released in English. So again, the point of why I have to decolonize the Emerald Tablets. So that's where he started getting into like his Kabbalic etymology of my name, or as our show would go, I suppose, symbology of my name. And he was like spelling out things in the air. I'm trying to remember actually what he said. This is cool. I'm wondering if this should be a separate podcast, but it actually shouldn't. Oh no, it should. Gosh darn it. No, it's okay. It shouldn't, because I'm already in this wave. I'll just expand on this later, because that's the point. Nature expands on things that work. So this story is so important. I will expand upon it later. We're just going to get to the point of why I brought it up here. And then wrap this show up in a short over 2 hours long. So this man started breaking down my name. He was basically saying like, oh, Chase, that means throne and like power. And then he just started like throwing out other words that sort of correlated to throne, basically, and being a king of one's own domain. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And like, we just started talking more about Kabbalah, and I actually learned a lesson here as well about how people can't perceive you past themselves. Because me and my desire to be understood, I told him like, oh yeah, I'm actually like the spirit of, but it was hilarious because when I was getting to the point of saying I'm the spirit of Hermes, so I totally get like this Kabbalah stuff, this woman came out, and this woman who works at Starbucks, we're gonna call her Floyd. Blaine and Floyd already know each other, and they're super friendly. So immediately they get into a vibe, and then Floyd is like super friendly to me, and then Blaine starts talking to both of us about the importance of Kabbalah, and like he's basically trying to put us on to his version of spirituality, which is like, I already get it, and to me, I'm happy because it's way more in line with just elements in nature. So then I was able to like put him on to what I'm sharing here and everything, as far as just how do spirits create life with elements and correlating it to words and everything based on whatever awareness he's had at the moment. But he's like talking in ways like, oh look, like there's this tree. Can you imagine that this tree could possibly be an antenna? And I'm like, bro, yeah, what? Absolutely. I'm like, absolutely. Like, the whole point of the tree is that it is a structure created to receive the mind, so the mind can now perceive what the structure is created inside of, which is also a structure, and it's just light bouncing off of other light bodies, all vibrating. For sure. Absolutely, bro. Like, yes, definitely. And it was just like funny getting past that, because he very much had a lot of talking down to energy, which I've learned, like the ego, basically everyone kind of wants to feel like in some way they're talking down to someone. So, and that's just when like we're in our egos. Like if you're someone who's not in your ego, then like, yeah, of course you don't want to feel like you're talking down to someone. And if you're someone who's in your spirit, then yeah, you definitely don't want to feel like you're talking down to someone, because it's all air. But then when we see that air plays out differently in different atmospheres, air is always on top. So really, anytime you're like speaking in general, it kind of appears like you're speaking down to someone, because anytime someone's listening to you, we know that your words are earth, and earth has gravity. So the longer we wait in your words, the longer we're paying attention to your creations and giving life to what you've got going on. And then that's where we literally create life together based on how long we wait in relationships and listen to people, and then build our own thoughts and ideas around what they're saying and what they've got going on, literally. Like, this is how we build our minds. See, it naturally works. So then we can see it play out in physical reality, and then we can reflect on physical reality, knowing that it's a reflection of us, and then boom, 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 learning communication. So let me actually get through this. I will make a separate episode for this story. So just know this man's very interesting. All right, I will tell you about Blaine. His name's Blaine forever. Because it's so not his name in real life, but I like Blaine now. But this is the opening of how I met Blaine, and then this is the closing of how I met Blaine, and it's the point of the snake. I'm not going to get into the medical industry part, because I actually have to go. I do have things to do. So that's where I'm going to get into the medical industry for a different episode, talking to Blaine, because my relationship with him is awesome. But it's all about the snake. Okay, so this is why it's important for this episode, and then next episode we'll talk about the tea, because your home is your tea. So I'm in my home, in my stability, alone. The S is about leaving your tea. So the serpent leaves the tea and slithers out. If the serpent goes too far out, then it'll get killed, and it can't come back to its own tea, because snakes do like to live in trees. So it is about your body living in your soul. It's about your energy living in your own vibration. So when I would travel out of my space to go to Starbucks and upload stuff, and I ended up meeting this man Blaine, and he ended up complimenting my Spider-Man shoes, and I showed him my costume. He was like, "This is way better than Hollywood." I'm like, "Thank you." He started like gassing up my costumes. Like, he was looking at them. I really appreciated it. It showed me like, yeah, I need to get back into making costumes. And then that's where the girl who came out was actually into cosplay. So then we were all talking about costumes, and he was like, "Show her your costumes." And I showed her. She's like, "These are amazing." And I was like, all right, I gotta like make costumes again. But that's where I want to make this Symmetry costume, and just all, yeah, I have many costumes I like to make for sure. It's just about, you know, me not having the shadow clone ability yet. So this is where this first conversation with him was like this three-way talk between me, him, and this other girl. And it was like a solid 2-hour conversation. And it's funny because it's like right in the heart of this whole pandemic thing. So it's very much was a whole lesson in seeing how hungry people were to finally communicate when they had the chance. And the fact that we were all in such vibrational resonance to be able to communicate about social matters and like spiritual matters was very awesome. Like, it was very magical, it felt like. So that was so therapeutic after like so long of not being able to communicate, because we're being told that it's healthier to not breathe air and not see each other face to face, only through screens that we pay money to the people who are telling us not to breathe air for.